Okay, this is going to be a quick tutorial on how to export an animation out of ToonBoom with an alpha channel. So this will be helpful if you have a character that's cel shaded and you've animated them in ToonBoom and you want to bring them into a program like After Effects or something like that in order to composite the scene together here. So I have a little test animation here that's just a few frames of a character turning their head, and here's how we export this with an alpha channel. So typically you'll have a color card underneath, right? So first thing you want to do is you want to turn off the visibility of that so that we'll have a transparency there. And next up, so there's a few steps to this. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as it should be, but it's not too bad here. So step one is go up to Windows and then find your node view right here and pull up your node view, and it should look, something approximately like this. I know some people can get a little intimidated by nodes, but we're not going to do anything too complicated here. So all you need to do is find the one that says right, that should probably be on the bottom left here. Right click on it and then go find layer properties. Once you click on layer properties, this layer properties pop-up will come up. By default, Harmony works in the TGA image format, and so we're just gonna have to change a few of these settings here. Before we do anything though, we see that we have the image folder here. Anytime you're working in ToonBoom, you have your project folder that you're working on. I'm working off of my desktop right now just for this demonstration here. So I like to make subfolders here, so it'll kind of go to the frames folder right here. But let me just click on choose, and I'm just going to make a new subfolder that I'll just call character 1 or something like that here. And so I've created a folder for this to export into under the frames subfolder in my project. Next up, most of these settings are okay, but these three settings right here are what I'm going to want to change. So first I want to change the image format to a PNG. A PNG is a really useful format for anyone who's unfamiliar, which is like a JPEG, except for it has the ability to contain an alpha channel layer within it. So it has this nice combination of being able to use alpha channels, it looks good, and it's typically like a small footprint. So PNG. Next, under colors, we want to do color plus alpha to make sure that we have an alpha channel in there. And then finally, I like to give it a bit depth of 16 bits just to make sure that the resolution is as good as it can possibly be here. So once you've changed those 1, 2, 3 things right there, and I've chosen my folder, I'll close this out. And now we should be ready to export. So in order to export this, make sure you set the frame range to what you want it to be. So I'm just going to render out about 13 frames here. And I'm going to go to File, Export, Render Right Nodes right here. So File, Export, Render Right Nodes. And, oh right, yeah, you can set your frame range right here. So selected frames, I'm going to do 1 to 14 because this is just a quick test animation. And I'd already set all my settings in the node view under that Layer Properties tab. So this is all set up and ready to go here once I've set my frame range here. So that looks good, and I'll press OK, and then that'll come up. And I close out my node view. So here on my desktop, we have my project folder is called RD2. There's the frames folder, and then I named it character 1, and you can see my PNGs showed up right here. And let's test this out and see what it looks like in After Effects here. So I'll open up After Effects, and got a new project here. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to import those PNGs as a PNG sequence. So I'll go Import, File, and let's see here. Locate my PNG frames here. And all I need to do is select the first one, so find number 1. Make sure that this PNG checkmark is checked right here. And press open. And now we have a PNG sequence. If right now is set automatically to a 30 frames per second frame rate, if I want to make this into a new composition, I can either drag this into the timeline, or I can go to composition, new composition, and create a composition this way. So I'll just drag that in so you can see and here it created a new composition called final dash, and I'll just rename this. So I'll click on it, and then if you tap return, that's a shortcut that lets you in After Effects rename something quickly without right clicking or anything like that. I'll just call this comp 1. Right now things are set to be 30 frames per second. If you want it to be different, you can right click here on the image sequence. So right click, and we go to interpret footage and then main, and frame rate, assume this frame rate is 30 is what it's set up as, so you could set this to be 24 if you'd like. And since I dragged that image into here, the image sequence in here to create a new composition, it's probably wise for me just to double check my composition settings here. So I'm just going to go to composition, go to composition settings, and you can see right here the frame rate's 30. I'd rather this be 24, so I'm setting in 24 in both places. And you can tell by this checker background that this is an alpha channel. If you don't see that checkerboard right there indicating the alpha channel, this is the button right here in After Effects that turns that on and off. So if you click this button and there's still no checkerboard, that probably means that there is no alpha channel in there. So there might be a step missing there. Additionally, you can check by making a new solid and putting it underneath this layer in After Effects. So I could go to Layer, New, Solid at the top up here and create a background layer. And it shows up on top of my animation, so I'll just drag it below. And so you can see we have an alpha channel here. And so I typically like to composite my scenes in After Effects. It's just kind of what I'm comfortable with. So part of my animation process is I will do the animation in ToonBoom of the character and then bring it into After Effects for color correction if I want to add multiplane animation, things like that.